should have allowed him to post bail, which is exactly what they are going to try and do.
Right, and he has brought in new lawyers to try and get this done. Get to the lawyers in a second. I just don't know how's the argument changed?
For the past several years, Agnifilo has been lead counsel for the Agnifilo Intrator law firm. That leads us to Agnifilo's notable cases, beginning with the federal trial of NXIVM cult leader Keith Raniere.
25 of the 120 individuals who are plaintiffs in these cases were minors at the time of the acts complained of.
And I'm going to do everything that I can to move his case as quickly as possible. I understand that the government has a great amount of electronic devices that they have to download and provide to me.
So since September 5th, you had known, you expected it was likely he was going to formally face charges.
So I really knew he was formally going to face charges on March 25th, the day of the searches, when Homeland Security searched his Los Angeles home, his Miami home, and his airplane. I knew that day by looking at the search warrants. I mean, I've been doing this for a while. This is not my first or 100th rodeo.
Imagine watching a slow motion car crash. That's the vibe around P. Diddy right now. His empire? It's wobbling like it's made of jelly, with fresh scandals landing almost daily, like rapid-fire beats in a rap battle. Every new day brings another explosive twist, and the feds are circling, sensing trouble. Diddy's lawyer, rumor has it, he's ready to throw in the towel after who knows how many stress-filled days. And just like that, the once steadfast defender has stepped away, leaving everyone wondering what's next. Join us as we dig into this dramatic legal showdown, unpacking each shock and revelation as they unfold. And hey, before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe and tap that notification bell to stay updated on this story and more. All right, let's jump right in.
A bit about Agnifilo's history. He received a bachelor's degree in philosophy and political science from Connecticut College in 1986. In 1990, he received his Juris degree from Brooklyn Law School, and while there, even received the American Jurisprudence Award for Outstanding Performance in Trial Advocacy.
So I would imagine if you were the CIA, you're like, okay, we're looking for people who have gone through these things in their life that have curated this kind of like personality type.
Well, isn't it just like part of the gig?
He's ready, he's focused. He has been ready to defend this case since he first found out about this case. Nothing has changed from his perspective. I obviously would much prefer to fight this case with him out of jail, and we are going to try to bring that about through additional legal process. The prosecutors are seizing on something that happened 8 years ago. You know, this video that we've all seen, and it's a bad video for Mr. Combs, and he said so himself when he gave his apology. This is 8 years ago, and the prosecutors are talking about him bribing a hotel security worker. There was no criminal investigation. This was just a matter of personal embarrassment because he and the person in the video were in the midst of a 10-year relationship that was difficult at times, that was toxic at times, but it was mutually so.
I mean, I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video.
With lawsuits and accusations piling up against Diddy, his legal team is sticking to their stance, claiming he's innocent and calling the allegations nothing more than cash grabs. In his first pretrial hearing, Diddy pleaded not guilty.
He believes he's innocent. I believe he's innocent. And we're going to fight this case with all of our might until we don't have to fight any longer. We're not giving up by a long shot. I told Mr. Combs I'm going to try and get his case to trial as quickly as possible. I don't think it was 1,000. Let's just say it's a lot. Okay.
What prosecutors were arguing is not only does your client pose a flight risk, because obviously he's incredibly wealthy, has access to planes and a lot of staff, even though you said he turned over his passport to you months ago, they were also worried about him being able to interfere with witnesses and calling them. And so I guess the question is, how do you assure the court that that won't happen if prosecutors are saying, this is someone who's attempted to bribe security staff and has already threatened and interfered with witnesses?
So I think the most important thing, even more important than the passport, is that Mr. Combs came to New York on September 5th. As soon as we realized that this indictment was going to be coming down in a matter of weeks, maybe months, but sometime soon, Mr. Combs got on a plane, left his home in Florida, flew to New York. I called the prosecutors myself. I said, Mr. Combs is in New York. Do you want to know where he is? If you want to know where he is, I'll tell you where he is, but he wants to surrender. He's here to surrender.
After Judge Robin Tarnofsky denied his bail, he took a slow sip of water, looked back at his family, and was led out of the courtroom. His lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, firmly stated Mr. Combs is a fighter. He's going to fight this to the end. He's innocent. Agnifilo also plans to challenge the judge's bail decision.
The freak-off sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant.
But everything's on the government's timetable, nothing's on the defendant's timetable, and they're going to have to accommodate me and him and give us a quick trial, and I'm going to be pushing for that.
Agnifilo acknowledged Diddy's imperfections, admitting his past struggles with substance use and toxic relationships, but noted he's now in therapy and receiving treatment. The lawyer argued that the case stemmed from a long-term mutual relationship that soured due to infidelity, indirectly pointing to Diddy's decade-long relationship with Cassie Ventura.
Came to light in Cassie's lawsuit, where she talked about these freak-off parties that he would have at hotels she said, in Atlanta, Miami, LA, and New York.
And they were essentially orgies. But the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, who filed this, laid this out at a press conference and specifically addressed the freak-offs.
As for the controversial freak-offs, Agnifilo insisted they were consensual. Is it exploitation? Not if everyone wants to be there, he argued, suggesting that the authorities were crossing a line into Diddy's personal life. Agnifilo also dismissed the firearms allegations, explaining that they belong to a hired security team, not to Diddy. Both Diddy and his legal team have rejected similar claims in recent lawsuits.
First of all, what was your reaction to this newest and latest allegation of more than 100 additional victims?
Hi, Nicole. Nice to be with you. You know, it's the proverbial snowball coming down the hill. You know, when you've been living a lifestyle, not just one or two incidences, but a lifestyle which Diddy seems to have led, there's a lot of people, a lot of activity out there. And to be honest, I don't think it's over. I don't think we're at the precipice yet. We're going to see these new claims come out in different states, different jurisdictions. The additional ones will follow, and people are kind of jumping on the bandwagon. And the indictment and the initial civil lawsuits gave a lot of these victims the courage to come forward, which is probably why they didn't come forward before, and now we're seeing it.
Combs threatened and coerced victims to get them to participate in the freak-offs. He used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims.
Diddy's legal woes, the charges. Sean Combs, whether you know him as Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, or just Diddy, is in the middle of a serious legal storm. This isn't a minor hiccup. The feds are bringing major charges against him, the kind that could mean swapping luxury for a prison cell. The first charge, racketeering conspiracy. Basically, the government is saying he's been running his music business more like a criminal gang than a record label. It's as if they're suggesting he's turned Bad Boy Entertainment into a hip-hop version of the mafia.
This is the type of indictment you would expect from someone in the mafia.
I don't know that I could keep him off the stand. He is very eager to tell his story.
An appeals court says the judge was wrong. The judge should have allowed him to post bail, which is exactly what they are going to try and do.
Right, and he has brought in new lawyers to try and get this done.
And if we think about how RICO was created in New York to take down mafia bosses, mob bosses, and that's what Mr. Combs is. He's a mafia boss. He's a New York mafioso boss. And the RICO law was created to take down people like him.
But it doesn't stop there. He's also facing accusations of exploitation, with claims that he's allegedly used his influence to push people into adult work. Just hearing about it feels unsettling. And on top of that, there's a charge for transporting people for exploitation. In other words, they're alleging he's been shuttling people around as part of this alleged operation. Imagine an illegal Uber service, only far worse. The freak-off parties. Then we have what the feds are calling the freak-offs. No, it's not a new dance trend. These were allegedly wild parties Diddy hosted, supposedly filled with narcotics, music, and questionable acts. Picture a lavish mansion filled with music, beautiful guests, drinks, and dancing. It sounds like any other celebrity party at first, but according to the feds, these gatherings took a dark turn. They claim Diddy orchestrated these events with disturbing control, even reportedly keeping guests intoxicated so they'd follow his orders. Think The Wolf of Wall Street meets hip-hop, only with far more sinister undertones. These parties supposedly went on for days at a time. Imagine, while most people would be recovering from one night out, these guests were allegedly in the midst of a non-stop, substance-fueled marathon. It makes you wonder if anyone ever paused to say, maybe this should end? The evidence uncovered. When police raided Diddy's luxurious homes in Miami and LA, they found a bizarre collection of items that sounded straight out of a twisted supply list. Among the discoveries were 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lube. Enough for the world's slipperiest party, to say the least.
I can't imagine it's thousands. I mean, you know, and I'm not really sure what the baby oil has to do with anything. I don't know where the number 1,000 came.
They're essentially saying it's a lubricant for an orgy.
I guess. I don't know what you need 1,000. One bottle of baby oil goes a long way. I don't know what you need 1,000 for. He has a big house. He buys in bulk. You know, I think they have Costco's in every place where he has a home. I mean, have you sat in the parking lot of a Costco and see what people walk out of there with?
But things got stranger. Alongside the oil stash, they found IV fluids, actual medical-grade supplies. Apparently, these parties were so wild that people needed IV drips to bounce back afterward, almost like they were getting ready for a marathon, just not the running kind. Now that's one extreme hangover cure.
And the lawyer for those alleged victims, we heard from him in that first soundbite, holding that press conference, but not yet actually filing the lawsuit. When do you think that could happen, and what is the strategy there?
So here's the strategy. He's letting it known that he's going to be filing these lawsuits, and they're going after different defendants, not just Diddy. They're going to go after potentially celebrities, high-level executives, venue owners, things like that may have been involved. So what they're going to do is they're going to announce the lawsuits that are coming, most likely file them under a Jane Doe for the plaintiffs, and they're not going to name any of these other defendants, but they're going to reach out to them and say, hey, listen, you know, we're going forward. We can try to work out a deal now. We can try to settle the claims. If we do, nobody will ever know your name. It'll be under confidentiality, and that'll be it. If not, here's the lawsuit. We're going to put you right into the middle of it. You're going to be outed. You're going to be part of the Diddy criminal scandal. And that's going to trigger a lot of settlements. So it's tactical.
Diddy behind bars. Since September 16th, Diddy's been in a Brooklyn jail, loudly proclaiming his innocence. However, the judge isn't convinced, denying him bail even at a whopping $50 million. When that kind of money won't set you free, it's clear the charges are serious. If convicted, Diddy could be facing a life sentence. Going from music icon to potentially serving time is a huge fall, one that's left the music world in shock.
He's not giving up on trying to get out of jail. You know that he has been turned down twice to get out on bail, and he is being held in Brooklyn and will be there until the trial begins.
Unless he appeals and an appeals court says the judge was wrong.
The larger story. This isn't just about a wild party or a few bad decisions. The authorities allege that Diddy's been living this way since 2008, a decade plus of hidden activities behind the glamorous life of a superstar. The accusations suggest he used his fame and wealth to intimidate people into silence, with threats and alleged harmful behavior aimed at protecting his reputation. It's like a real-life crime thriller, but with hit records instead of dimly lit restaurants. This case is pulling back the curtain on some of the darker corners of the entertainment world, raising tough questions about power, influence, and what really goes on behind the scenes in Hollywood and the music industry. Diddy's last hope. Meet Mark Agnifilo. Let's talk about the man tasked with keeping Diddy out of jail, Mark Agnifilo. This isn't your average lawyer. He's like the superstar of the legal world, known for handling cases that would send most lawyers running.
Starting in 1998, Agnifilo began his work at the U.S. Attorney's Office in the District of New Jersey. There, he worked as the chief of violent crime unit and specialized in cases involving money laundering, extortion, and During his tenure there, Agnifilo became a nationally recognized expert in sophisticated criminal prosecutions and the RICO statute, the very same statute that Diddy is now charged under.
Agnifilo has a reputation for taking on tough clients, Remember the NXIVM cult scandal? The one with the creepy branding rituals and celebrity followers? Agnifilo defended Keith Rainier, the cult's leader. Rainier ended up with 120 years in prison and a huge fine. But Agnifilo took the case head on.
He's repped several high-profile defendants, like the NXIVM cult leader Keith Raniere and Roger Ng, a former Goldman Sachs banker convicted of bribery and money laundering. Defense team and saying, who is this guy? What's his background? And obviously with Agnifilo, we oftentimes connect it to the case of Keith Raniere, who was the NXIVM cult leader. They're kind of comparing these two cases because Keith Raniere was also charged with racketeering, similar-ish charges, and in that case, he lost. I mean, he was sentenced to 120 years in prison.
And that's not all. He also represented Roger Ng, a former Goldman Sachs executive wrapped up in a massive bribery scandal tied to the Malaysian government. While the prosecution tried to pin it all on Ng, Agnifilo argued he was just a scapegoat. Let's just say Agnifilo doesn't shy away from clients in deep trouble.
Racketeering, similar-ish charges, and in that case, he lost. I mean, he was sentenced to 120 years in prison. Is that any indication of what could happen to Diddy?
So, anytime we talk about the federal government, I think everyone has to recognize the federal government has an advantage that the state government doesn't. And in terms of their ability to try cases, their ability to access information, their ability to have evidence admitted during the trial is much more powerful than in any other state.
So what's he saying about Diddy? Agnifilo's calling this case an unjust prosecution. He admits that Diddy's not perfect, putting it lightly, but insists he's no criminal. It's like saying, sure, my client's made mistakes, but he's not the villain they're making him out to be. Agnifilo even points out that Diddy moved to New York willingly to cooperate, hoping to show he has nothing to hide. See? My client's just here to help, he seems to say.
Mr. Combs came to New York on September 5th. As soon as we realized that this indictment was going to be coming down in a matter of weeks, maybe months, but sometime soon, Mr. Combs got on a plane, left his home in Florida, flew to New York. I called the prosecutors myself. I said, Mr. Combs is in New York.
But Agnifilo's facing one of his biggest challenges yet. With the feds pushing hard and new allegations surfacing almost daily, he's going to need some serious skills to get Diddy out of this one. If anyone can pull off a courtroom miracle, though, it might just be Agnifilo.
You know, when we talk about the Rainier case, the case was overwhelming against him. That doesn't mean he had a weak defense attorney. Mark Agnifilo has been successful in many cases. He used to work for Ben Brafman, who, by the way, represented Sean Combs years before. And so I'm not sure that defines who he is. Obviously, if someone walked into a courtroom and saw him doing an ineffective cross-examination, then maybe we would change our mind. But I don't think the fact that he lost a case such as the one we're talking about right now has any indication that he's not fully capable of handling this case.
As this legal drama unfolds, one thing's for sure, it's going to be quite the spectacle. Or as they now say, this is going to be the trial of the century. Will Agnifilo manage to keep Diddy out of jail? Or is the music icon facing a future in prison stripes?
Spoken with Diddy's lawyer, in fact, in our documentary, which, by the way, is streaming right now on Tubi, The Downfall of Diddy, the indictment. And what he said was, look, we are going to move for a speedy trial. And he had a sense that the feds didn't have all of their ducks in a row, and he wants to exploit that, and he wants to go to trial, and he wants to do it quickly. So that may be the best resolution, just in terms of giving him the ability to make his case if he's found not guilty, where obviously he would go free. But I agree with Jason. I just do not see that happening.
What lies ahead for Diddy? From topping the charts to possibly serving time, Diddy's journey from music mogul to facing jail time is a reminder that fame and fortune can't always shield you from the law. His once solid empire seems to be crumbling under the weight of legal battles and shocking accusations. As we watch this play out, one thing's clear. This case could leave a lasting mark on the entertainment industry. Diddy's legacy is changing, and it's a remix no one saw coming. The outcome here could have serious consequences, not just for Diddy, but for hip-hop and Hollywood as a whole.
Allegations and evidence, I think Diddy is going to surely need a dream team, much like OJ, and we are looking forward to the trial of a century.
We got Akon at the airport, and the way he spoke about this, to me, just underscores the fact that Hollywood generally has not spoken out. And he's
speaking, but he's explaining why
he's not
saying much,
right,
and why others aren't even saying what he's saying.
So listen carefully to this.
I think the business in itself is taking a shift. If you look at it from a spiritual perspective, music hasn't been the greatest role model for our youth. If you look at it these days. So I just think it's a spiritual shift that's happening, and we just got to sit back and relax and watch. Mind our own business, and whatever people are doing on their personal time is something they have to deal with on their own.
The idea of the government seeing, somebody as a target for their success. I mean, at least that's how the lawyer's playing it. It's not the first time we've heard this rhetoric. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, but it's a defense mechanism. At the end of the day, we just gotta all sit back and let it play out.
Growing fears behind bars. Diddy is reportedly very anxious about his safety in prison, especially due to his alleged link to Tupac Shakur's assassination. Rumors are swirling that some gang members might target him, seeing him as a trophy for revenge, given Tupac's West Coast ties. Diddy is said to be genuinely afraid for his life in jail, concerned that West Coast gangs might be looking to settle old scores.
And certainly, Diddy would be facing potential dangers because a prison, by virtue of it being a prison, is not necessarily a good place to be. It's not a safe place to be, but particularly this facility is known to have a lot of problems in the last few years.
It's routine. They're going to keep him outside of the general population to monitor his psychological health, as well as to protect him, because he's such a high-profile figure that he would be a target of violence.
One insider told Radar Online that life in prison is never fully secure, and people with influence, even gangs, can sometimes reach individuals despite high security. If Diddy ends up in a prison controlled by gangs, some fear he could be in serious danger, possibly facing risks from those who believe the accusations against him.
If you're participating in those videos, you should be worried. You can charge a whole bunch of people, underlings, and then offer to give them deals and immunity in exchange for their cooperation to testify against a main target. Diddy is the only defendant, and thus he is the main target.
In one of the lawsuits, Diddy has even been compared to Jeffrey Epstein, another powerful figure who fell hard. There are concerns that prison guards could be influenced to allow harm to come his way, echoing the mystery surrounding Epstein's jail time. While Diddy calls the accusations pure fiction, investigators are reportedly digging deeper into his potential link to Tupac's unresolved case. This intense chapter has everyone on edge, and it's likely we'll see more shocking details emerge in the days ahead.
The freak-off sometimes lasted days at a time. Now, Combs did not do this all on his own. Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff.
According to a source, the longer Diddy stays in jail, the more dangerous things could get for him. A prison expert explained that gang members would see taking him out as a huge win, especially if he had any involvement in Tupac's shooting. Mark Epstein's attorney also pointed out that detention centers run by the Bureau of Prisons are a big issue for the justice system. She said, "Anyone could be at risk in the current state of our detention system. It's a concern for the courts, the government, the defense, and especially for the individuals who are locked up."
You think it's over?
I think it's over for him as like a figure in entertainment.
Right. But do you think it's over as him as far as
jail?
he gets a cell right next to R. Kelly?
I don't think so.
Diddy's pure hell in jail, according to ex-inmates. Sean Diddy Combs kicked off 2023 in true celebrity style, celebrating New Year's on a $170 million super yacht in St. Bart's with his then-girlfriend, Young Miami, and a circle of famous friends. The lavish yacht had everything: a helipad, a baby grand piano, a jacuzzi, and a wine cellar. At midnight, Diddy toasted the new year with bottles of Ace of Spades champagne on deck.
But is this place really dangerous? I know that they listed a couple of statistics that there had been several suicides, even potentially. So is it possible that he could be in danger?
So he's in protective custody now in the SHU unit, but his lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, pointed out recent events in that prison, and MDC Brooklyn has been plagued with a lot of violent acts.
But fast forward 20 months. and Diddy's life has taken a sharp turn. Arrested on September 16th on charges of exploitation and racketeering. He now finds himself in a small, plain cell at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center. Diddy has denied all accusations and entered a not guilty plea. His lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, has voiced serious concerns about Diddy's well-being in the facility. The food is reportedly inedible, Agnifilo stated after Diddy was denied bail. He added, "It's a harmful environment, and someone like Mr. Combs could be a target. We can't let that happen." From yacht parties to jail time, Diddy's life has drastically changed. And according to those familiar with the conditions, it's a tough, unforgiving environment.
What would it look like for Diddy in this protective care unit, I guess? He's separated from general population, but what is his day-to-day like?
So Diddy's life in the SHU, in that specialized housing unit where he's been placed for his own safety, is going to be something that's rather routine and mundane. He's not going to be necessarily even enjoying some of the things that general population, aka Gen Pop, enjoys, because he's being in a special segregated unit for his own safety, which means he's going to be under more constant observation by guards. His comings and goings in and out of his cell for recreational time.
We don't know all the specifics of Diddy's situation at the MDC, but former inmates have shared stories that paint a bleak picture. For someone used to a life of luxury, like his $35 million, 8,000 square foot Miami mansion, complete with private security and surrounded by family, Diddy's new reality is a drastic change. The 54-year-old music mogul now faces a very different daily life. One ex-inmate who spent 3 months in MDC back in 2019 called it a horrible, horrible place. He described the lack of fresh air and the low-quality food. Despite his estimated $600 million fortune, Diddy may now endure routine strip searches, limited shower access, and little contact with loved ones, all while facing the risk of physical harm. Prison consultant Sam Mengel didn't hold back, describing parts of MDC as pure hell and possibly the worst federal detention center in the country.
Inside a facility that is being called hell on earth. The Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn is notorious for its appalling living conditions and rampant violence. How bad is it inside this federal lockup? There have been 2 forced suicides and numerous stabbings and lockdowns in recent years.
Life in close quarters. Initially, Diddy was placed under watch from taking his own life. According to a former inmate, this level of monitoring means constant surveillance, with bright fluorescent lights and cameras on at all times. Every time you leave your cell, you're strip searched. The former inmate said those under this watch are given rubber shoes, special eating utensils, and even need approval for basic hygiene items like toothbrushes. Recently, Diddy was moved off watch and into protective custody. He's now under the same unit as cryptocurrency fraudster Sam Bankman-Fried, and past inmates in this section have included high-profile figures like R. Kelly, Ghislaine Maxwell, and NXIVM leader Keith Rainier. This unit is for people who request or require protective custody, a source explained. It generally houses high-profile or vulnerable individuals. There are around 30 inmates in the unit, each in a single-man cell smaller than those in regular areas, with access to a recreation deck about 500 square feet in size.
You have a desk, you have a plastic chair, you have your bed with a 1.5-inch mattress, no pillow, and you also have a locker. So you basically have 3 feet by 5 feet to move around. So you have a basic 15 square feet. It is a horrible, horrible place.
Living in fear. The Metropolitan Detention Center has a reputation for being dangerous. In 2020, an inmate named Jamal Floyd passed away after being pepper sprayed by correction officers. And more recently, in July, Edwin Cordero passed away in a harsh altercation. Cordero's lawyer described MDC as overcrowded, understaffed, and neglected, even calling it hell on earth, in an interview with the New York Times. His widow, Ashley, shared with US Weekly that the facility is filthy, infested with rats, and warned no one should have to live like that. She advised Diddy to trust no one, adding, "That place is clearly not safe."
And as Les Trent reports, the music mogul who once traveled by private jet to all those mansions is now in a jail that is notorious for its bad living conditions.
One ex-inmate suggested that Diddy might be able to earn some favor with guards or other inmates. If the guards like him, he might get extra food or more time out of his cell. Blair G. added, "He's wealthy, so they may treat him better." almost like a form of extortion. However, another former inmate warned that Diddy's fame doesn't carry the same weight behind bars. Outside, he's a 10, but in prison, everyone's brought down to a 5. It's a completely different world. Prison consultant Sam Mangle also mentioned that Diddy's charges might add to his troubles, saying, "I wouldn't be surprised if other inmates are yelling and threatening him." Easy target. Diddy's alleged crimes could put him at risk among other inmates. Prison consultant Sam Mangle shared with US Weekly that offenders accused of SA are often specifically targeted in prison. According to a recently unsealed indictment, prosecutors accused Diddy of a persistent and pervasive pattern of maltreatment that involved verbal, emotional, physical harm, and SA towards women and others around him. One of the main accusations involves events that he allegedly organized, so-called freak-offs, where Diddy is said to have persuaded women to participate in intimate performances in hotel rooms. Prosecutors claim he provided illegal substances and used force, threats, and coercion to make the women engage in prolonged acts with male adult workers, recording the encounters on video. Diddy's arrest follows a series of civil lawsuits accusing him of SA and physical harm, with the 11th lawsuit filed on September 23rd. His ex, Cassie Ventura, was the first to file a suit last year, accusing him of mistreatment and coercing her into intimate acts with male adult workers. An insider revealed that Ventura, now married to Alex Fine and raising 2 children, feels relieved that Diddy is now in jail. With more stories coming out about him, she feels validated, the insider said. She knows there's a lot more that could come to light, and it's very dark and scary. She finally feels like she can close that chapter on her life. Diddy has denied all accusations, pleading not guilty to each charge. A spokesman from him stated, "Mr. Combs is staying strong, healthy, and focused on his defense, with full support from his family, legal team, and the truth. He hasn't had the chance to defend himself yet, and no criminal or civil claims have been proven in court. Mr. Combs remains innocent until proven guilty. He won't be distracted by conspiracy theories or exaggerated stories about his life." As for the legendary parties he hosted, they were highly sought after by some of the world's most famous people. Any attempts to twist what happened at those events are pure fiction, likely from people who weren't invited or are trying to stay relevant by making things up. This story is far from over, so stay tuned. It might just be the biggest legal showdown in hip-hop history. Who knows? Diddy's next release could be a track from behind bars. Whatever happens, we'll be here, breaking it down for you as it unfolds. A saga that's part cautionary tale, part tragedy, and all gripping. But what do you think about all this? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. That's all for today. We hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more videos like this.